Welcome to the Essentially You podcast. Dr. V, how are you doing today, girl?
I am wonderful. I'm wonderful, wonderful.
I am seeing you in your hot pink, your hot pink sweater, your lipstick. You are looking so good. So good. And what I'm so excited to talk about today is living a life of purpose and how you have been able to navigate that and with so much ease and grace in this last couple of years. And I know for a lot of us, our life, our career, our passion, our purpose has come up for review, especially during the pandemic, on the other side of the pandemic. And so I want to speak deep into that today about, how you having a career, just a studious career, an amazing career, and then tapping into your heart's desire and seeing that there was a little kind of a slight misalignment in terms of what you were doing and what your heart was really craving, and how you were able to shift that, how you were able to step in a really brave way and doing it that felt very authentic to you into a new path that is coming from that heart place and allowing you to show up and serve women at an even greater capacity. So talk to me a little bit about your journey into this and kind of what that defining moment was for you, Dr. V, when you were like, I need to reevaluate what's going on in my life.
Wow. You said a mouthful. You said a mouthful. And, it's been decades. I'm an OBGYN and I always wanted to be one. And so my process of actually becoming a practicing OBGYN in private practice, it took 12 years. And sometimes when you start the journey and you're going through the journey, your head is down. But when you finally get to where you have achieved and you've arrived, sometimes it's not exactly what you thought it was, nor are you the same person that you were at the beginning of the journey. And so when I thought about becoming an OBGYN and delivering babies, doing surgery, that's what excited me. But I didn't see that I would be married and that I would have 2 children. And so that looks very different. A life of service to women looks very different when you have your own family at home that also needs you to be present and needs to be serviced. And so it was very obvious and very clear that I was going to have a struggle in my first year of practice when my baby boy, he was 2, and he fell down and he ran to his dad and he didn't run to me. And it just kind of, it broke my heart, but I kind of rationalized it. Well, I'm not here. He's taken care of. He knows mommy loves him. And so I continued my career. So I'm like, 15 years in, and that's when I start to question that something's got to change. And COVID actually was really what, pushed me into the deep end. You know how when you're in the pool and some of us jump right in and others need to be pushed. COVID is what pushed me in. And that was really kind of my wake up that, hey, you are working too hard. Your family needs you. My son is going to be out of the house in 2 years and he's gone. And we have a smaller daughter. She's 11. We've got more time with her, but I had to do something. The other thing is that my body was sending me signals that I wasn't doing well with the stress. I'm now having to do a lot of dental work because I was grinding my teeth and I broke my teeth. And I was getting migraine headaches a lot. I was just under a lot of stress. And so the work that I do is very personal to me, and I like to pour into each and every patient. And I realized that I could help change the system in a way that we could come up to a different level of service for our patients, but also be authentic and provide a great experience for providers. So that's where I am now. And the journey is ongoing. I have not figured it all out yet. So you're catching me at a very exciting time, a very wild ride.
Absolutely. And, just stepping into that into this new adventure, into this new passion. I know, we had the opportunity to connect before as well. And one of the big things that came up is your devotion to your patients, is your devotion to women's health, and how you kind of want to, and that there you found a path that allows you to continue to serve women, or you're figuring out that path while not having to work so hard that you are grinding your teeth at night, you're having these crazy migraines, that you yourself are struggling with some hormone stuff that's popping up, right? Because the overwork, all the things that are happening.
Absolutely.
And was it in the pandemic where you just got a chance to breathe? I know for a lot of doctors, if appointments were like annual exams, or if they were not emergencies, a lot of things were put on hold. And so I know that appointments weren't as shoved in as they had been in the past. Was that kind of the moment where you got your breathing room? Can you talk a little bit about kind of when did you kind of see that aha moment of like, oh wow, like I've been running at such a fast pace for so long, and I've had my nose to the grind that I hadn't even had a chance to look up. Now I have this breather, and this is what I do from it.
Yeah, so I was trying to create that before COVID. And so one thing I hated about my interactions with my patients is I had to type in a computer so that I could keep all the information, right? And so now we have what they call medical scribes. And the scribe she'll allow me to talk with my patient and type in the information that I don't have to worry about. Okay, so I thought that was going to be enough. My notes were done when I went home, but it wasn't enough. When COVID happened, so we do obstetrics, right? So we have to see our pregnant women. Mm-hmm, yeah. But gynecology stuff, some of that stuff could be managed via televisits, and some of it was not as emergent. We were open 8:00 until 1. I was going home at like 2 and 3 o'clock. I had never done that before, ever. I went to Target. We bought board games. Life was one of the big winners, and we were playing together. We were laughing together, and it just fed a different part of my soul and my spirit. I was also the only one leaving the house at the time. So remember, in the beginning, it was only essential workers and schools were closed. And so I was going out away from my family, and I was longing to get back home. Like, I was like, let me finish up this part so I can get back to my family. And if I'm being honest, I was working so hard, I couldn't even appreciate the longing for my home and the longing for my family, because I'm going from patient to patient to patient, delivery, surgeries, answering phone calls. And I couldn't even tap into the love that I have for my family, because I hadn't even really interacted with them as much and in this way. So that's what I learned from it. Definitely, my job does not have to be everything, but the way I am, I'm going to show up and I'm going to give 100%. And what I realized is that I wasn't showing up for my family. That kind of hurts to say that.
Well, and I think you, in some ways you were, Dr. V. I mean, you were providing for your family. You were, the sole contract that you had with your husband. At the time, you're working and you're serving all these women. I know. And you came home and you were so tired too. You can imagine. I can't
so exhausted
of being there. And
so exhausted.
I know so often we can get caught up in the like, how is the best way that I can serve my family? And for women, there's just this tug and pull all the time of like showing up, one, being an example, showing them what's possible, then being the provider, and then being the mama, because the mama is always the mama. You know what I'm saying? Like
always.
One thing that you mentioned was I was pregnant during the pandemic, the heart of it. They weren't canceling my appointments. Let me tell you,
ma'am.
Everybody else's appointments were getting canceled, but my little pregnant booty was all up in the doctor's office all the time. It felt like all the time. I must have gone to like 20 visits. And then really crazy is I have an amazing nanny downstairs, and my son is going through this phase, as all babies do, where he just is like, Mama, that's the only thing I want right now. And so before I jumped on this interview with you, I had to go pump. So I'm still pumping, or I'm still breastfeeding. And
that's great.
Kingston was in the kitchen having lunch with our nanny. And I knew that if he saw me, he would want out of that high chair. He would want me to hold him, and he was going to have a fit if I walked away. So I was like, psst, like I was going to signal her from the staircase, like get my pump stuff so he didn't see me, and so it was this whole orchestra of things of like trying to navigate showing up to do this with you. This
right.
But then, and also, not firing off his stress response system because mom just walked in and walked out in like 3 seconds.
I know. That's a wonderful story. I love it. Yes, the push and the pull of being a mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does change though when they get older and they don't need you as much. But that's the funny thing. They still do need you. They will always need you. They will always need you, but just in a different way. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I just think about like, I know we can be so hard on ourselves because it is, I have not found, and I know that anyone will tell you there's no balance. I live in it. I have not found it,
Yes.
Days where I'm just like, what? I just really need to spend time with him, my son. And then there are other days where I'm like, I really just want to be in my work. Fluctuates. I have not found like a happy, like I have found a lot of happiness and balance within it, but it's constantly shifting is what I mean.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard it said that there's not balance, there's harmony. And I really see that, our life can be full and we can be mom and we can work and we can have it all, as they say, but not at the same time. What I think, how I got off balance was that I wasn't aligned with my values. Family was very important for me, but also connection. That's why I like my patients. I like to connect with them, but I wasn't even connecting with my own family members. But yes, I was providing for my family because our situation, we wanted to be active in our children's lives, and we wanted at least one of us to be free for them. And we didn't want a nanny. And so I made a great salary. And so my husband, God bless him, he was comfortable being the stay-at-home dad. And I was comfortable being the provider because I've 12 years of training, right? This is what I've worked for. But I really wasn't honest with myself as far as how much I needed to be present physically. And, I tried to, and I'll say this, I don't, I want to help other physicians who are burnt out and who maybe need to make a transition. I tried to do part-time because I knew it needed to be addressed, but part-time, and I'm sure you have the same issue as a physician, part-time is not, you might be not paid as much, but still the same amount of time is required, right? So you have to still do the notes, and it's not like you punch a clock and you're done. And so it's funny, I made that decision and that didn't work either. And when I started talking to some other OBGYNs, they're like, oh yeah, I could have told you that. So, it's really important that we as women say, what are my values and what are we going to do as far as making sure that we align our lives with that. So we don't feel empty and don't feel like a hypocrite either. But I just love it. I mean, it's a different time. Like the phase that you're in is boots on the ground 24/7, like you 24/7. And it evolves. But one thing that doesn't really change is your values. I mean, they may change a little bit, but who you are at the core is the same. Yeah.
I agree. And I think it's so important. And I know that the pandemic for many of us gave us an opportunity. I always say things are always going to keep coming up for review until you address them. And when we had that time to really assess our values and what mattered and what was aligned with what was true for ourselves, I think a lot of us found ourselves unaligned. A lot of us found ourselves looking back and thinking, oh goodness, how did I get here? Lots of positives, to how we got here. I think a lot of us
Right.
struggle is we're like, actually, like, this great career. I worked so hard to get here. And, there's so much accolades, that there were so many positives that came from it. However, when we really did a gut check, it was like, but something's not settling right for me. And is there a way for me to continue to do this work?
Yes.
That allows for me to honor my values at the same time. I think that for many of us during the pandemic, although, and I think all women, whether it's physicians or it is women who are running their own businesses or, in a lot of different frames, and any of us can look at that when we were in the pandemic and see that things were up for review for us, especially around our values, that, for years we may not have seen what was going on. We were just going through the motions. And for many of us, our careers, our business, our purpose, the work that we were doing in the world, it felt super great. But then maybe there were other things that were falling to the wayside that we just didn't have our eye on, and that we were able to really look at a deeper level during the pandemic, because all of a sudden we had that expansion, that opportunity to breathe. And one of the things that I know to be true is that things will keep coming up for review until you address it.
Until you get it right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's why COVID, it was horrible for so many, but such a blessing for others, because like I said, I've been trying to work on this, and I was trying to do part-time, and I was working 3.5 days a week, and I was trying to make it work, and it just wasn't working. But what I realized, I just spoke with my coach this morning, and she said, 2 years ago today, I said, what I want to create in healthcare is what's missing. That's what I want to provide. And so are there ways that women who are burnt out or who are trying to balance family can do both? And can we make it easier? And so there's something called job sharing, which, I didn't have it at my company, but you all can basically share a position. As a physician who has to take call, who has to do surgery, who has to see patients, you all share one position. So you truly can be part-time. In my research, there are a lot of ways that we can help women live in harmony, be mom, be professional, and still provide value in both areas. And so that's where I'm going next. I'm going to change the system because burnout is real. And it's not just in medicine, like you just said, it's in every industry. And when you speak to people who don't live in America, the woman doing my nails, she was from Germany. She got 2 years off, paid.
To have her baby.
Yeah. To have her baby, and her husband got time off. And we just there, and I know it's a fight, and I know there's a balance, but as of now, we get 6 weeks. We get 6 weeks. 12 weeks, baby.
When we hit 6 weeks, this was around this time, a little before this time last year. And I remember that defining moment of 6 weeks. My baby was still extremely helpless. You know what I'm saying? And, talk about like that, like all of a sudden 6 weeks in one day, you had a different baby. You know what I'm saying? And I was mind blown. It's one thing to conceptualize that or theorize that. And it's another thing to be in the trench at 6 weeks.
At 6 weeks.
Think, you gotta be kidding me. Not even 90 days is appropriate. Not even 6 months. Maybe your baby is finally crawling at 6 months. You know what I'm saying? Like it's taking from you. But it just we do such a disservice to women, those who want to, stay home with their families, or those who want to spend more time with their families. I have a lot of friends that are pregnant, about to have a baby right now, and their partners can take maybe 3 days off. I'm like, three days.
And there is no way. I'm an obstetrician, and like I said, I know my patients. You have a woman who has a history of depression, and you're going to leave her with a newborn baby. She's a first-time mom, and dad's going back in a week. And she has no support. That's the other thing. There are some cultures where the pregnant women have a lot of help around them.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, here, most women have their mother or mother-in-law, but they don't have a huge tribe. And if you have your mother-in-law, it's for a week, maybe, or two. And so really a lot of the problems that we see, we could help on a system level. Giving the dad more paternity leave so the mom isn't burnt out can help with postpartum depression. I have seen it. One patient who, with one pregnancy, she was completely depressed, but now her husband's there, the family's there, she's not depressed. And so it's just, it just bothers me because things have to change on a system level. And so it's just little old me, I feel like sometimes, and not that it is, but there are people doing great work, but the system has to change, and it will. And I think COVID, I don't care who you are, COVID has taught us, as you said, let's just take a deep breath and let's figure this thing out. So, and I'm so glad, Dr. Mariza, that you are talking about this, because when I decided to leave, people pulled me aside and whispered. They didn't ask out loud. I even got text messages. How are you going to do it? How are you going to make it? They want to leave too. They want to leave too.
They're burnt out. Yeah.
They're burnt out.
Well, I think that was so the reason why I was excited to have you on, Dr. V, was I want to just speak into how brave you are. There are a lot of people who things came up for review in the pandemic and they want to change, but they weren't sure how to make change happen. And I think you really decided to align with your heart and align with your values, and I know you knew that there was a way to make it work. And I think that's the big lesson in this conversation too, is that there's always a way to make it work, and that's why I was so excited to have you come on, is that you things came up for review for you. You loved your career, but you wanted to be with your family, and you had a vision for what we could do for women as well. And you're navigating how to make all of that work for you. And as a side benefit, you're such a massive contribution to women.
Thank you for saying that. I feel that. Yes. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. And it is so funny. There are other people who have made a shift in other industries, and everything we have in common is that we should have done it sooner. We should have done it sooner. One of the first things I did, I was speaking at a retreat in the mountains. It was beautiful. I wasn't at the office, and I was still connecting with women, which I love to do. And I made a post. I said, is this what I was afraid of? Is this what I was afraid of?
The sexy life right here.
I mean, and it's my life. I'm like, sometimes I'm pinching myself. The stay-at-home mom part, I haven't quite figured that part out, like the cleaning and
about that. Talk to us a little bit about that, because I know, and the journey of it, the journey of it, because you and your husband, your partner had an agreement around, like you had said, you always wanted someone home with the kids. And he was like, you know what, you're the queen bee, you know how to do what you do. And you know what, I want to honor that. And I just want to celebrate him for a hot minute. You know what I'm saying?
Craig Varnado. Yes.
And very secure. You know what? You're right. I do know what I'm doing, and I am handling business. Let me continue to go do that. Right. Until things came up for review, and you guys have a different kind of, you guys shifted things a little bit. Talk to me a little bit about that. What that journey has looked like for you or felt like for you.
So I would probably give myself an A as a physician, and as a homemaker, probably a C. I can be hard on myself, but I mean, I knew being a stay-at-home mom was tough, and I saw what he would do. And he's very structured, and he has routines. And really, that's all I have. Once I figure out the routine, I'm going to get it. But he's at work now, and our kids go to a charter school. They don't ride the bus, so we take them and we pick them up. And that window of time seems like it goes by. It's probably 6 hours, maybe. It feels like 2.
Taking them to school and picking them up from school. it's just like, it just disappears like that.
It goes away. And so there's laundry, there's dinner, there's making phone calls, there's paying bills. And he did all of that. And he still pitches in, but he's working now. And, I want to be that person when he comes home, I've got dinner ready. And I've done it sometimes and I feel really good. And sometimes I haven't. But I'm going to give myself some grace. But what I will say, to be transparent, is that he said I was about to get fired. So I think I better get to work and maybe hire somebody. So I can do that
too. Because, like, I think about, you're still doing the work as an OBGYN as well. Like, let's not get it twisted. Just because he went back to school full time, you're still doing back to work full time. You're still doing your work too. And you're taking on the household as well. I'll be honest with you. Yes, I can clean my house. I am super organized. I do not like things. I do not like clutter, but also, I work a lot, and my time is precious. I want to spend time with my son. And so we do have time to help us out a little bit, to just kind of ease the household a little bit. And it has been so worth it. We've never gone back on that. And we've been able to continue that. We have different values around what clean looks like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and how everything should run in the household. And and I've always known that. And so I'm like, okay, well, how do we solve this problem?
Right.
Like someone, we just have someone who helps us a little bit. And then, and I'll be honest with you, since I've been married for 7 years, I don't think I've ever put dinner on the table. Alex loves to cook. He loves
There you go.
His opportunity for creativity, his opportunity to let go of work for a minute. We work together in our business. And so
awesome.
And I'm a workhorse, I'm probably like you, like I could just nose to the ground. Like my favorite time is getting it done. And Alex, like, I miss me with that. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather go cook a sexy dinner. And I'm like,
that works.
Are you working while you cook a sexy dinner? Because that's how I operate. So I feel like there's still, there's still even more grace for you here.
There is. And where that expectation came from, it didn't come from him. It's really in my head and what I feel like I want to be able to provide. It's really getting comfortable with who you are. And I am still evolving. And like you said, I'm going to give myself some grace. So thank you for that. But it's fun. It's fun to figure this out. Okay, yeah, maybe I'm not the best housekeeper. Hey, let's get some help. Asking for help is not a problem. It's not a problem. So I'm really excited for your listeners out there. Just planting the seed to say, hey, if you're burnt out, you need some help, ask for it, and just be clear on what you want. Just be clear on what you want and what you need. But I will say my husband and I are definitely opposites, and we complement each other, I guess is a better way to say that. And our kids can benefit from that. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for this new part of my journey.
And I'm sure your kids are loving your way of parenting. The strict schedules or the routines. I mean, there's a lot of wonderful, wonderful benefits to these things as well. But maybe they're loving a little bit of the mama energy.
So let me just tell you this. And I know women who were working outside of the home and their husbands were at the house. Let me just tell you, I was working, right? And I would come home and they were in remote school and homework wasn't done. So he had his routines, but remote learning was really tough. And so he was a little bit more relaxed about that. And I was like, well, they've got to, they've been out of school and they've got to do the work. So I would work at 9 to 5, as you will, and then come home and I had to do the homework and make sure all of these things that I thought were getting done during the day, they weren't. And so now I've got to do it. What'd you say?
The second job?
The second job. And I was like starting to resent it a little bit, if I'm being honest. And so, yeah, it's funny that you say that. I think they like me being home, but I'm a little bit more of a stickler for the school, the academics and getting the homework done. And so they don't like that part. But
the mama who went to med school to become a doctor is a little bit of a stickler on the education piece. The mama who spent over a decade in school.
I know. When you put it like that, yeah, no surprise, right?
No surprise at all.
But I'm not type A though.
Oh no, not at all. Not
at
neither.
all.
Me neither. And you know, and I know you mentioned earlier kind of just that being hard on yourself, and you think about the discipline that you've had and the standards that you've had for yourself. And when we've had those deep beliefs and those deep ways that we operate in life, and it's gotten us so far, it's no wonder it transcends into the next thing too, right?
Yeah.
Being the mamahood stuff of it, of like, you know, and it's hard. It's hard to do the unlearning of that as well, because that is what got you to where you're at.
Where I am. That you are so good. Yes. Yes. But you know what? That's what I love about children, is that they will let you know. They will let you know. And the older they get, their brain starts to kick in and put things together. They can articulate it really well when you're doing too much. And I mean, it comes out like, this isn't fun. This isn't fun, or you're making me feel XYZ. And so we have that relationship, especially my daughter, where she'll tell me. And so I'm evolving and I'm learning, and I'm learning to pull back, because it should be fun. It should be fun some of the time, not all of the time, but some of the time. So
I agree. I agree. I mean, we think about what the purpose of life, or what's the purpose of us being here. And I cue into that all the time. And I feel like my biggest work here is to serve women, period. But I do that because I want women to show up the best of the way that they can, and with love and happiness and joy and energy and all of that. And you know what, you can't transcend that and help other people in that realm if it's not happening for you and your own.
For you and your life. Exactly. Very well said. Very well said. When I stepped out of medicine, I'm like, I'm going to change the system. Now what I've realized is that I need to help the other women in the system who have also the same agency, or they have the same access to agency, that I can help them figure it out for themselves. And then together, all of us can provide better service for our patients. And so the system is gonna need to change from the inside out. And so I'm really excited about helping women with burnout to figure it out, so that they can, in your words, show up as the best version of themselves, and give what their purpose to give, so that the system will benefit from it all.
Well, you are such a blessing in that way. And I love that new purpose. I love that new mission. And you're absolutely right. Like, the practitioners need it too. You know, we all of us are needing it. And yes, it is an inside out approach in terms of how we shift medicine, and how we care for our patients, and how we address the root cause of conditions that we see every single day. And more doctors are waking up to that. Every single day, more and more doctors are like, well, you know what, this whole A to C approach, my patients aren't getting better. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's got to be something else to this. And no prescription pad is going to fix burnout. Not one I ever found.
Well, look, some people would say Lexapro and Zoloft, but again, that's not the root cause. That is not the root cause, and you're putting a Band-Aid. And we haven't talked much about that, but what also helped me pivot was my introduction to lifestyle medicine. And so helping people focus on the basics, nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress management. Our lifestyles contribute to about 80% of chronic disease. And so you're right. When practitioners can tap into that and empower patients to improve their health in that realm, it's so much more rewarding, because a pill doesn't fix everything. And it doesn't address the root cause a lot of the time. So yeah, I'm excited.
I love it.
I'm excited.
And I know one of your endeavors that you've been doing for a little while now is your podcast. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So again, I was trying to figure this thing out because I wanted to educate my patients. And I just didn't feel like I had the time. and I'm saying all of this to say, because this will make sense why I created the podcast, but there are things that if we knew about our bodies as women, we wouldn't have to pay a $30 copay to come in and have Dr. V tell them, oh, that's normal. Oh, that's normal. And so I started the podcast to address those issues, some basic OBGYN conditions that I see commonly. And as I learned more about lifestyle medicine, I've started to incorporate that into the podcast. So I talk about things that people don't talk about, like cervical mucus and heavy periods, herpes, my favorite episode, but the lowest rated. It's the least downloaded, but I talk about those things. But I also talk about, depression and mental health, all those things that I think if we can address, that it will provide a better life for anyone who listens to it, women and girls. And so it's called Office Visits with Dr. V, and it is dedicated to helping women be happy and healthy. I love it.
Love it. Well, Dr. V, I want to wrap up with a couple of quick fire questions. And I'm just super excited to see what you have to say. Question number one is, what is one thing you are deeply grateful for right now?
Oh my gosh. This is a quick fire, but we got in an accident yesterday, in a car accident. And I am grateful to be alive. I am just grateful to be alive. The path that we took, we kind of spun around and didn't hit anybody. And my two children were in the car, and I'm just grateful for my life. I have a new appreciation for that.
I hear that. A year ago, yesterday, we were in a car accident with at the time, Kingston was 2 and almost 3 months old.
Oh my gosh.
The car was totaled out. We had got slammed into by a truck that didn't realize we were in a turning lane, stopped. And it was one of the most scary moments of my life. So I was in the back seat, because, new mamas, I'm always in the back seat with my baby. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You're protecting.
Yeah. The middle seat. And my husband got a really terrible concussion, and the car was completely totaled out. And I didn't realize it was literally a year ago, almost a day ago. And it's just, so grateful for us to be alive. So grateful to have the care that we got.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that nothing had happened to Kingston, but that, it just is such a great reminder of how precious life is.
Were you okay?
Luckily I was in the middle seat, so I got some whiplash. I have neck stuff already. My husband had, the top where your head is, he slammed into that. And so he ended up getting a concussion. And so we did all kinds of things for him for several months to heal that up. But we were in care for a long time, trying to.
Wow.
But I think it's just the shock of it. Like, I remember, calling the pediatrician, doing, a multi-point check on the baby, making sure, trying to figure out Sunday, figuring out if we need to bring him into the ER or not, just so crazy. And so
wow,
just having that moment of gratitude. So I feel you. Okay. What was something you've done that made you extremely happy in the last week?
So I'm just coming back from a trip from St. Lucia, and look, I said yes. That made me happy because I wasn't gonna go. I jumped into the ocean.
Nice.
I'm always one of those people that dips my toe in, toe by toe, but I just jumped right in. And my motto now is I'm trying to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so, that made me happy.
Oh, I love that. I just want to take a moment and celebrate you. Comfortable and getting uncomfortable. You know what? It's in the discomfort that the magic happens.
The magic. Yes. Very good. I like that.
What's one thing about you that surprises people?
I am not as confident on the inside as they think I am. I too, like anybody else, I have insecurities. And you talk about being brave and leaving, but I didn't think that I could do it. And I didn't know what else I could do, which was completely crazy. So my having insecurities, people are often surprised to know that, I don't, my cape,
the cape
I have a few holes in it.
The cape is on.
It's on. It's on.
But yeah, I feel you. And, it's such an interesting thing, fear. And when we talked about this before, but like, I think a lot of times fear comes up because what we're heading to, what we want means so much to us.
Yeah.
It means so much.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't want to mess this up. And so, but look, despite the insecurities, despite the fear, in your face, you just keep taking the leap.
That's right. I'm jumping in with both feet.
Like that ocean.
Like the ocean.
What book or film has recently had a big impact on you and why?
So on the way down there, I watched King Richard, and it was the story of Serena and Venus, or it was their father. But what had an impact is that from the very beginning, they were playing tennis in Compton, but he always said they're going to be number one in the world. Like before he had he knew they were good, but before anybody would invest a dime of their time or their money, he believed that they were number one, and they became number one. But he never wavered. Like I was bawling on the plane. Yeah, the greatest of all time. And he said it. He said Venus would be number one and Serena would be the greatest of all time. And that's exactly what happened. And because he believed it, it came true. And so I'm holding on to that.
I have a dear friend of mine who always talks about, not about your future self, because you're going to have a future self,
Right.
That's happening. It's about your vision self. How do you step into your vision self? And because that is who you want to become, right? That's who your future self is going to happen, and it can go all kinds of ways, and it may not go the way that you want if you don't have the belief or the vision in place. And so, I cannot wait to see this movie. I've been waiting on to see this movie for so long. And so I'm so glad you mentioned it again. It's such a great reminder, but that he had a vision self for his girls. And for him and the family. And wow, talk about, probably realized beyond his greatest imagination or dreams of what those two, my mama's favorite person in the whole world is Serena Williams. Let me tell you. She's like, Serena's on all the time. We come over, Serena's on, Serena's playing. My mom's gone around the whole world watching Serena Williams play.
Oh, good for her. Well, she has to see this story. I didn't know that they were, I don't want to say impoverished, but it was a 2-bedroom house and it was 5 girls. And Venus and Serena were sleeping in the same, I'm like it was, there's no reason that they should have thought that they could be where they are today, coming from where they came from. But they did, and they are. And that's been amazing to watch. Been amazing to watch.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Oh, okay. And the last question, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Oh gosh. Yeah. A lot like what my kids tell me, let's have some fun.
Yes.
Let's have some fun. 18, I was very clear I wanted to be a doctor, and I had a path and I was sticking to it, and I went straight through. And so now that I reached the end, there are people who have traveled more and have other experiences. And those are things that I want to have. That honestly, it's better to travel the world when you don't have small children. Yeah. Anybody who's traveled with kids, just the stroller and the car seats alone can bring it down for you sometimes. But just exploring and saying, I don't know why I felt like I could only be a doctor, like I had to go straight through. And so I would tell 18-year-old Benita, take the road less traveled. Everybody's being a biology major and everybody's going straight through, but follow your heart and have some fun and explore the world along the way.
I know. I remember when this question came up, I was like, "Ooh, girl, yes," because that was me, 100%. I was like, "Stay on the path. Do not let anyone I don't know. I don't know if someone gave me advice of like, do not deviate. you need to stay on this path. And it was, I don't know if it was tied to a lack of worthiness or what, or maybe it was, I was afraid that I wasn't going to be disciplined enough, but like, I just went straight through. And I remember telling you that I literally took 3 days off, you know, between school and my first job as a biochemist. And then between that and then heading off to become a doctor, 3 days. I gave myself 3 days.
Wow.
On Friday, and I would start school or start the next thing on a Monday. And I remember meeting people as I'm working to become a doctor, and they were like, oh yeah, I lived in Barcelona for a year. Oh yeah, I did this and this and this and that. And I was like, what? You could do that? No one told me you could.
Nobody told me, right?
No one told me to just stay the path. And so
yeah.
I didn't even look up until I was almost in my 30s.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And yeah, we just took Kingston. I took the baby to LA just for a couple days, and people are always so amazed. You know, we met up with friends, and they're just like, "You guys make it look so easy." I was like, mm-mm. I mean, it's so great to get to be there and bring the baby and do the things.
Yes.
Like, no, we're on his nap schedule. Where his snacks at? Did someone got the stroller? In the car when he's sleeping? You know what I'm saying? Like it
yes.
look okay from the outside, but there's a lot going on
yes.
behind the scenes.
Yes. I am not the most structured person, but you have got to be organized, because you will be out there with no change of clothes and no diapers and trying to figure out what the heck you're going to do. So yeah, good for you. Good for you. Making it look easy, I tell you.
Goodness. I'm not trying to, I really am not. That's never my intention. But and we want Kingston, like we took him to see dinosaurs in LA, and, you know, like we want him to have these experiences, but yeah, there's a lot of effort and work that goes on the behind the scenes to make all that happen. You know, yeah. So travel, if you're listening to this and you ain't got no kids yet, if there's anything you got from this part of the conversation, is go and travel without children.
Do it.
It's so much harder.
Oh, and right, we didn't say it was impossible.
No.
Remember that, listeners. It's not impossible, but it is more of a challenge for sure.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Sure. Like there's no just grabbing your purse and running out the door. You know what I'm saying? There's no just making sure you had your wallet and you can get on a plane. No, none of that anymore. And so it's the whole thing. Anyway, all right,
I love it.
It was such a pleasure to have you on. You were such an inspiration, and I hope that the conversation just really is that little flicker of a light, of a moment that has people just bringing up their values and their purpose and their heart into review. Because what you have taught us today is that it is absolutely possible once you align with what feels right to you.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for doing the work that you're doing. And you're modeling exactly what we're talking about today. And you're not keeping it a secret. Mm-hmm. You're being honest. It's not easy. It's hard, but it's rewarding. And so the more that we talk about it and we're really honest about our experiences, I think we as women will kind of be able to take a breath and say, hey, it's okay. Most people are not perfect. Matter of fact, nobody is.
Nobody.
And so, yeah. So thank you for doing your work. I appreciate that.
You too. Thank you, Dr. V. Have an amazing day.